The first thing I noticed about her was how small she looked. I mean, really, pathetically small. When the human female stepped through the entrance of the Galactic Military Academy's main hall, I almost laughed. Almost. Because laughing at a new cadet on their first day was beneath my station as a third-cycle student. But damn, it was tempting. Her name was Riley Vance. I know this because Commander Thex announced it to the entire assembly that morning. His 4 eyes blinking in that particular way that meant he was either annoyed or constipated. Hard to tell with Croaxians. "We have a new transfer student," Thex had growled, his mandibles clicking together. "From Earth. She will be assigned to Combat Training Unit 7. A ripple of amusement swept through the hall. Humans were rare at the academy, not because they were forbidden, mind you, but because most of them failed the entrance exams. Their planet had only joined the Galactic Coalition 15 cycles ago, and they were still considered, well, primitive by most standards. I watched Riley Vance walk down the central aisle. She wore the standard academy uniform, which looked almost comically oversized on her frame. Her hair was dark, pulled back in a simple tie. Her face showed no emotion whatsoever. Not fear, not excitement, not even curiosity. Just blank. That should have been my first warning. My name is Krell, by the way. Krell Voshtar of the 9th Tyrillian House. My people are warriors, born and bred for combat. We stand nearly 8 feet tall. Our skin is armored with natural plates, and we can lift 3 times our body weight without breaking a sweat. I had scored top marks in every combat simulation since I arrived at the academy 2 cycles ago. So naturally, when Commander Thex assigned Riley Vance to my training unit, I groaned. Out loud. Several other cadets did the same. "Problem, Cadet Voshtar?" Thex's voice cut through the noise like a blade. "No, sir," I lied. "No problem at all." But there was a problem. A big one. Training units operated on synchronized performance metrics. If one member underperformed, the entire unit's ranking dropped, and rankings determined everything at the academy. Everything. Better dormitories, first choice of assignment after graduation, access to advanced weaponry courses. You get the idea. Unit 7 had been ranked 3rd overall. We were close, so close, to breaking into the top 2. And now we had dead weight strapped to our backs, in the form of a 90-pound human female who probably couldn't even lift a standard pulse rifle. After the assembly, I cornered my unit members in the rec hall. There were 5 of us total, now 6 with the human. There was Dax, a Horvalian with reflexes like lightning and a tendency to make inappropriate jokes. Mira, a Zelthan female whose species specialized in tactical analysis. Jorek, a massive brutarian who could punch through solid steel. And Finn, a Quilarian whose 4 arms made him exceptional at a multi-weapon combat. "This is a disaster," Mira said, her blue skin flickering with agitation. "We will drop to 5th rank, minimum." "Maybe she will quit," Jorek suggested, his voice like grinding boulders. "Humans are soft. She will not last 1 week." "1 week?" Dax laughed. "I give her 3 days. Maximum." Finn said nothing, but his antenna twitched in agreement. I should have shared their certainty. But something about the way Riley Vance had walked into that hall, completely expressionless, bothered me. It was not the reaction of someone who was scared. It was not even the reaction of someone who was trying to look brave. It was the reaction of someone who simply did not care what we thought. The first training session was scheduled for the following morning. Combat simulations in the arena, a massive facility that could generate any battlefield environment through hard light technology. I arrived early, as always, and found Riley Vance already there. She was sitting on a bench, lacing up her boots. Standard issue, just like everyone else's. She looked up when I approached, and for the first time I got a good look at her eyes. They were gray, light gray, like smoke, and completely unreadable. "You are early," I said, not bothering to hide my surprise. "So are you," she replied. Her voice was quiet, almost soft, but there was something underneath it, something that made the scales on my neck stand up. I sat down on the opposite bench, crossing my arms. "Look, human, I will be direct with you. My unit is ranked 3rd. We have worked very hard to achieve this position. I do not want your presence to drag us down." She finished tying her boot and stood up. Even standing, she barely came up to my chest. "Okay," she said. "That was it. Just okay." "Do you understand what I am saying?" I pressed. "The training here is intense. It is designed for species that have evolved for combat. Humans are not built for this." "Maybe," she said, and walked past me toward the arena entrance. I stared after her, frustrated. This was going to be worse than I thought. The rest of the unit arrived within minutes. Commander Thex entered last, his expression as sour as ever. "Today's simulation," he announced, "is a Category 4 hostile environment. Urban warfare. Multiple enemy combatants. Your objective is to secure the target building and extract the hostage." Category 4. That was serious. We had only done 2 Category 4 simulations before, and both times we had barely passed. Thex continued. "You will be evaluated on teamwork, tactical efficiency, and combat effectiveness. Begin." The arena shimmered, and suddenly we were standing in the middle of a war-torn city. Buildings crumbled around us, smoke filled the air, and the sound of distant weapons fire echoed off the walls. "Spread out," I ordered, falling into my role as unit leader. "Mira, find us a route to the target. Jorek, take point. Dax, cover our 6. Finn, you are with me. Riley, stay in the E. Middle, and try not to get shot." Everyone moved except Riley. She stood there, looking around slowly, like she was taking in the scenery. "Riley!" I snapped. "Did you hear me?" "I heard you," she said calmly. "Your plan is bad." I felt my blood pressure spike. "Excuse me?" "You are sending Jorek into an urban environment where his size makes him an easy target. You are putting Mira on navigation when her tactical skills would be better used coordinating from a central position. And you are splitting Finn and Dax when they work better together." For 3 seconds, nobody spoke. Then Dax burst out laughing. "Oh, this is rich," he wheezed. "The human thinks she knows better than Krell." But Mira was frowning. "She is not wrong," the Zelthan said slowly. "About Jorek, at least." "Thank you," Riley said, like she had not just insulted our entire strategy. "Here is what we should do instead." What followed was the most humiliating 10 minutes of my military career. Because Riley Vance, the tiny human female who had been at the academy for less than 24 hours, proceeded to completely reorganize our formation, explain exactly why her strategy was superior, and then calmly wait for us to acknowledge she was right. Which she was. We ran the simulation using her plan. And we did not just pass, we demolished it. Our time was 40% faster than our previous Category 4 record. We took 0 casualties. The hostage extraction was flawless. When the simulation ended and the arena returned to its normal state, Commander Thex stood there with all 4 eyes wide open. "Cadet Vance," he said slowly. "Where did you learn tactical analysis?" Riley shrugged. "Books, mostly, and practice." "Practice," Thex repeated. "What kind of practice?" "The kind where, if you mess up, people die." The arena went very quiet. Thex stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded once and left without another word. I turned to Riley. "What did you mean by that?" About people dying? She looked at me with those smoke-gray eyes. I meant exactly what I said, and that was all she would tell us. Over the next few days, Riley Vance proceeded to systematically destroy every assumption we had made about humans. In hand-to-hand combat training, she moved like water, flowing around attacks that should have crushed her. In weapons accuracy, she scored higher than Finn, who had 4 arms and enhanced targeting instincts. In endurance runs, she kept pace with Jorak, who weighed 3 times as much and had lungs designed for thin atmosphere sprinting. But it was not just her skills. It was the way she approached everything. No hesitation, no fear, no wasted movement. Like she had done all of this 1,000 times before. By the end of the first week, Unit 7 had jumped from 3rd rank to 1st, and it was entirely because of Riley Vance. The other units started watching her, whispering. I caught cadets from Unit 2 trying to recruit her, offering better dormitory assignments and extra meal privileges. She turned them all down without even looking interested. "Why did you come here?" I asked her one evening in the mess hall. "To the academy, I mean. Humans do not need military training. Your planet is under coalition protection." Riley chewed her food slowly. Protection is not the same as safety. "What does that mean?" "It means," she said, "that when something bad happens, I prefer to be the one holding the weapon." I wanted to ask more, but something in her expression told me the conversation was over. It was Mira who figured it out first. We were in the tactical library, reviewing combat footage from the previous day's simulation. Riley had done something impossible during the exercise, predicting an enemy ambush before any of our sensors detected movement. "I have been researching human military history," Mira said quietly, pulling up a data screen. "Specifically, Earth's recent conflicts." "Humans have conflicts?" Dax asked. "I thought they were a unified planet now." "They are. Now." Mira's fingers danced across the controls. But 15 cycles ago, before the Coalition arrived, they were not. The screen filled with images. Soldiers in combat, cities burning, faces covered in ash and blood. This, Mira pointed to one particular conflict, was called the Border Wars. It lasted 8 years. Millions died, and it only ended when the Coalition made first contact, and humanity realized they were not alone in the universe. She pulled up another image, a grainy photograph of soldiers, all young, all wearing similar expressions of exhausted determination. And there, in the back row, barely visible, was a face I recognized. Riley Vance. She looked younger in the photo, maybe 16, 17 cycles old, but those eyes were the same, smoke-gray and completely unreadable. She was a soldier, I breathed, an actual soldier. "Not just a soldier," Mira corrected. I cross-referenced the unit markings. She was part of something called Special Operations, elite forces, the ones they sent on missions nobody else could handle. Dax let out a low whistle. How old was she? 15 when the war started, Mira said quietly. 23 when it ended. The numbers hung in the air like a death sentence. Riley Vance had spent 8 years at war. 8 years. She had been fighting and killing and surviving since she was a child. "That is why she is so good," Jorek rumbled. "She has real experience, combat experience." "That is also why she is here," I realized. She came to the academy because what else does someone like that do? When the fighting stops, where do soldiers go? None of us had an answer to that. The next morning, I found Riley in the equipment room checking the charge on a training rifle. I had not slept much the night before, thinking about what Mira had discovered. "I know," I said without preamble, "about the border wars, about your service." Riley did not look up. Okay. That is all you have to say? Just okay? She set down the rifle and finally met my eyes. What do you want me to say, Krell? That it was hard? That I saw things nobody should see? That I did things I am not proud of? She paused. Would that make you feel better? No, I admitted, but it would make you seem more human. I am human, she said flatly. This is what humans are. We adapt, we survive, we do what needs to be done. You were 15, I said, and I could not keep the horror out of my voice. 15 cycles old. 15 years old, she corrected. Humans measure time differently. But yes, I was young. Most of us were. Why did you volunteer? I did not. She picked up the rifle again, sighting down the barrel. They conscripted everyone over 14 when my city fell. You fought or you died. Simple choice. It was not a simple choice. It was a nightmare. But I did not say that out loud. The others know, I said instead. About your past. I figured they would find out eventually. She lowered the rifle. Does it change anything? I thought about that. Did it change anything? Riley Vance had come to the academy under false pretenses. Sort of. She had not lied, but she had not volunteered information either. She had let us think she was just another hopeful cadet, when in reality she was a combat veteran with more real-world experience than half the instructors. It changes everything, I said. And nothing. She nodded, like that made perfect sense. Fair enough. But Riley, I waited until she looked at me again. Whatever you did during the war, whatever you had to do to survive, it does not define you. Not here, not unless you let it. For the first time since I had met her, Riley Vance smiled. It was a small smile, barely there, but it was real. Thanks, Krell, she said. That actually helps. We stood there for a moment, two warriors from different worlds, and I realized something profound. Humans were not weak. They were not soft. They were something far more dangerous. They were survivors. And survivors did not give up. They did not quit. They kept fighting, no matter the odds, no matter the cost. Riley Vance had come to the academy quiet and unremarkable. But she was neither of those things. She was a weapon forged in blood and fire, wrapped in human skin. And we had no idea what she was truly capable of. Not yet. But we were about to find out. The trouble started 3 weeks after Riley joined Unit 7. Commander Thex called an emergency assembly at dawn, which was never a good sign. When we filed into the briefing hall, every instructor in the academy was present, standing in a tight formation. Their expressions ranged from grim to furious. Last night, Thex began without preamble, our long-range sensors detected an unauthorized vessel entering Academy airspace. It landed approximately 40 kilometers from this facility. A holographic display flickered to life, showing a sleek ship with markings I did not recognize. Pirate vessel, Mira whispered beside me. Cadron class. Those are banned in Coalition space. Thex continued. We tracked 4 individuals disembarking. They bypassed our perimeter defenses and infiltrated the lower training levels. Security responded within minutes, but the intruders retreated before we could capture them. What did they want? Someone called out. Thex's mandibles clicked together sharply. They accessed our cadet database. Specifically, they searched for one name. The hologram changed, displaying a file photo. Riley Vance. Every head in Unit 7 turned to look at her. Riley sat perfectly still, her face showing absolutely nothing. But I saw her hands. They had curled into fists so tight her knuckles had gone white. Cadet Vance, Thex said, his voice dangerously calm. Do you know why someone would be looking for you? Riley stood slowly. Yes, sir. I do. Explain. She took a breath. During the border wars, my unit conducted operations against several criminal organizations that were profiteering from the conflict. We disrupted their supply lines, destroyed their weapons caches, liberated their labor camps. We made a lot of enemies. And you think one of these enemies followed you here? Thex demanded. I do not think, sir. I know. The ship you showed us belongs to the Cadron Syndicate. My unit killed their regional commander 7 years ago. They have very long memories. The hall erupted in shocked murmurs. Dax let out a string of curses in 3 different languages. Jorek cracked his massive knuckles. Finn's antenna twitched so fast they blurred. Thex raised one clawed hand for silence. This is unacceptable. You brought danger to this academy, to your fellow cadets. I did not bring them here, sir, Riley said quietly, but I will deal with them. You will do no such thing. This is a military facility. We have protocols for handling security threats. With respect, Commander, your protocols failed last night. They got inside. They accessed your systems, and they will come back. How can you be certain? Riley's gray eyes went cold. Because that is what I would do. The silence that followed was absolute. Thex stared at her for a long moment. Then he dismissed the assembly with orders for increased security patrols and a lockdown on all non-essential facility access. As cadets filed out, I grabbed Riley's arm. You need to tell us everything, I said. Right now. She looked at my hand on her arm, then at my face. Let go, Krell. Not until you explain what exactly you did that made pirates cross half the galaxy to find you. I did my job, she said flatly. I followed orders. I completed my missions. And yes, some of those missions involved taking down very bad people who did very bad things. What kind of bad things? Mira asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Riley pulled her arm free from my grip. The kind where children disappear and never come home, where entire villages get sold into slavery, where weapons get traded to the highest bidder regardless of who gets killed. That kind of bad. Jorek made a rumbling sound deep in his chest. Then these Cadron criminals deserve what is coming to them. Maybe, Riley said. But they are not going to stop. Not until they get what they want. Which is, Dax prompted, revenge, justice, from their perspective. I killed someone important to them, and they want me to pay for it. Finn finally spoke, his voice softer than usual. What will you do? Riley met each of our eyes in turn. I will protect this academy. I will protect you. And I will end this before anyone else gets hurt. How? I demanded. She smiled, and it was not a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who had done terrible things and would do them again without hesitation. By giving them exactly what they want. Before any of us could respond, she walked away, leaving Unit 7 standing in the corridor staring after her. That night, I could not sleep. I kept thinking about Riley's words, about the cold certainty in her voice, about the look in her eyes. Around midnight, I gave up trying and decided to do a patrol of the dormitory level. Not officially, just to clear my head. The academy was quiet, most cadets asleep or studying in their quarters. That was when I saw her. Riley Vance, dressed in dark clothing, moving silently down the corridor toward the east exit. She carried a small pack and wore boots designed for rough terrain. I followed her. She was good at moving quietly. I would give her that. But Tyrillians have excellent hearing, and I caught the soft whisper of her footsteps as she descended to the lower levels. She bypassed 2 security checkpoints using override codes she should not have possessed, then slipped out through a maintenance access that led to the exterior grounds. I waited 30 seconds, then followed. The night air was cold, the twin moons casting long shadows across the training fields. Riley moved quickly now, heading toward the perimeter fence. She scaled it in seconds, dropped to the other side, and disappeared into the forest beyond. I cursed under my breath and climbed after her. Tracking her through the forest was harder. She left almost no trail, moving like a ghost between the trees. But I had trained in wilderness survival, and I knew the general direction she was heading, toward the coordinates where the pirate ship had landed. It took me 20 minutes to catch up. When I did, I found her crouched behind a fallen log, watching something through a pair of compact binoculars. "You are terrible at being stealthy," she said without turning around. I dropped down beside her. "And you are terrible at following orders. Thex said to stay inside the academy." "Thex does not understand the threat. If I wait for official channels, more people will die." "So your plan is what? Walk up to a group of heavily armed pirates and politely ask them to leave?" "Not exactly." She handed me the binoculars. "Look." I raised them to my eyes and saw the pirate ship sitting in a small clearing about 200 meters away. 4 figures moved around it, checking equipment and talking. They were definitely Cadron, tall reptilian species known for their brutality and complete lack of honor. "I count 4 hostiles," I said. "Standard pulse weapons, light armor, possibly more inside the ship." "There are 6 more inside," Riley confirmed. "I have been watching them for the past hour. They rotate shifts every 30 minutes. 10 total, against 2 of us. Wonderful odds." She finally looked at me. "You should not be here, Krell. This is not your fight. You are part of Unit 7. That makes it my fight." "I appreciate the sentiment, but this is personal. These people will not negotiate. They will not surrender. This ends only one way. Then it is a good thing I brought backup." As if on cue, Dax emerged from the shadows behind us, followed by Mira, Jorek, and Finn. All of them armed with training weapons we had borrowed from the equipment room. Riley stared at them, genuine surprise flickering across her face for the first time since I had met her. "You followed me too?" she asked. "We followed Krell following you," Mira said. "We are a unit. We do not abandon our own." "Even when your own is apparently suicidal?" Riley muttered. "Especially then," Jorek rumbled. "Now, what is the plan?" Riley looked at each of us, and something shifted in her expression. Not quite gratitude, but close. "Okay," she said slowly. "If we are doing this, we do it smart. No heroics, no unnecessary risks. We hit them fast and hard, and we do not give them time to react." She pulled out a data pad and sketched a quick tactical layout of the area. "Mira, you take high ground on that ridge. You are our eyes and early warning. Dax and Finn, you flank left. Create a distraction, but do not engage directly. Jorek, you are with me on the direct approach. Krell, you circle right and cut off their retreat to the ship." "What about the ones inside?" I asked. "I will handle them," Riley said. "Once the external threats are neutralized." It was a good plan. Actually, it was a great plan, considering we had about 30 seconds to prepare and were using training weapons against actual pirates with real guns. We moved into position. The forest provided excellent cover, and the Cadron were sloppy with their perimeter security. Overconfident, maybe, or just not expecting anyone to come after them. That was their first mistake. Riley and Jorek approached from the south, moving through the undergrowth like predators. I circled wide to the east, keeping the ship between myself and the pirates. Dax and Finn took up positions on the western side. Mira's voice came through our comm units, barely a whisper. I have visual on all 4 exterior targets, 2 by the loading ramp, 1 performing maintenance on the port engine, 1 on patrol, heading toward your position, Krell. I pressed myself against a tree trunk and waited. The patrol guard walked past, his weapon held casually across his chest. He was talking into a personal communicator, distracted. I stepped out behind him and struck him across the back of the head with the butt of my training rifle. He went down without a sound. 1 down, I reported. Engaging, Riley said calmly. What happened next was like watching a natural disaster in slow motion. Riley burst from the tree line at a full sprint, covering the distance to the 2 guards at the loading ramp in seconds. She hit the first one with a flying kick that snapped his head back so hard I heard his neck crack from 30 meters away. The second guard managed to raise his weapon before Riley grabbed it, twisted it out of his hands, and shot him twice in the chest with his own gun. The guard working on the engine spun around, reaching for his sidearm. Jorek appeared behind him like a mountain suddenly deciding to move. One massive hand closed around the guard's head and slammed it into the ship's hull with enough force to leave a dent. Alarms started blaring inside the vessel. 6 hostiles exiting the ship, Mira warned. Heavily armed. Krell, 3 heading your direction. I swore and took cover behind a cluster of rocks. 3 Cadron pirates came around the ship's stern, weapons raised and searching for targets. I fired 3 quick shots from my training rifle. The stun rounds hit the first pirate center mass, dropping him. The other 2 returned fire with actual plasma bolts that superheated the air above my head. Could use some help here, I shouted. Dax and Finn provided it. They opened fire from their position, forcing the 2 pirates to split their attention. One went down to Finn's coordinated 4-weapon assault. The other took cover and kept shooting. Meanwhile, Riley had disappeared inside the ship. For 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then the shooting started. Sharp cracks of gunfire, shouts, the sound of something heavy hitting metal. It lasted maybe 20 seconds total. Then silence. Riley emerged from the ship, her dark clothing now darker in places, with what I really hoped was not her blood. She was limping slightly, and she carried a plasma rifle that definitely had not been a training weapon. All clear, she said into her comm. Remaining hostiles are neutralized. Define neutralized, Mira said carefully. Dead, Riley replied flatly. They did not surrender. We regrouped at the ship. Jorek had restrained the 3 pirates who were merely unconscious. The others would not be getting up again. Ever. I looked at Riley. Really looked at her. She was bleeding from a cut above her left eye, and her hands were shaking slightly, but her expression was calm. Empty, like she had just completed a routine training exercise instead of killing 6 people. Riley, I said quietly, are you okay? She looked at me, and for just a moment, I saw something flicker in those gray eyes. Pain, maybe, or regret. Then it was gone, locked away, behind walls I could not begin to penetrate. I am functional, she said. We should call Commander Thex. He is going to be very angry. That was an understatement. Thex arrived 30 minutes later with a full security detail and several medical personnel. He took one look at the scene, at the bodies, at Riley standing calmly in the middle of it all, and his mandibles clicked together so rapidly they blurred. Explain, he said, in a voice that could have frozen plasma. Now. Riley did. She told him everything. About the Cadron Syndicate, about her past operations, about why these pirates had come after her. She did not apologize, did not try to justify her actions. She simply stated facts. When she finished, Thex was silent for a long time. "You should be expelled," he finally said. "You violated Academy regulations. You left the facility without authorization. You engaged hostile forces without clearance. You killed 10 individuals." "Yes, sir," Riley said. "I did all of those things." "However," Thex continued, his voice slightly softer, "you also prevented a potential massacre. These pirates were planning an assault on the Academy itself. We found detailed schematics of our facility on their ship. They were going to attack during tomorrow's graduation ceremony when security would be focused elsewhere. Your actions, while unauthorized, saved lives." He turned to the rest of us. "That applies to all of you. You disobeyed direct orders. You left Academy grounds. You participated in unauthorized combat operations." "Yes, sir," we chorused. Thex's eyes closed, then opened again. All 4 of them. "You are all confined to quarters pending a formal review, but off the record, speaking only as a fellow soldier and not as your commanding officer, I want you to know something." He looked directly at Riley. "You are the most naturally gifted tactical operator I have ever trained. You are also the most damaged. War leaves scars, Cadet Vance. Some visible, some not. The Academy can teach you many things, but it cannot teach you how to be at peace." Riley nodded slowly. "I know, sir. I am working on that." "Work harder," Thex said, "because soldiers like you, soldiers who have seen and done what you have, you only get 2 endings. Either you find peace, or you die looking for it." With that, he turned and walked back to his transport, leaving us standing in the forest surrounded by the aftermath of violence. The formal review took 3 days. In the end, Unit 7 received official reprimands on our records and mandatory counseling sessions. We also received commendations for exceptional bravery and tactical excellence. Apparently, the Academy could recognize good work even when it broke every rule in the book. Riley Vance received something extra, a personal visit from Admiral Kess, the head of Coalition Special Operations. I was not present for that meeting, but Mira had access to security footage. She should not have, but Mira had skills that way. We watched it together, the 5 of us, huddled around her datapad in the dormitory common room. Admiral Kess was a Vextari, one of the few species in the galaxy that made humans look large by comparison. But what he lacked in size, he made up for in presence. You could practically see the authority radiating off him. "Cadet Vance," the Admiral said, his voice surprisingly deep for someone so small. "I have reviewed your file. Your entire file, including the classified sections from the border wars." Riley said nothing, just waited. "You were part of Omega Unit," Kess continued. "Deep reconnaissance and direct action. Some of the most dangerous operations humanity conducted during the conflict. Your service record is impressive. 63 confirmed missions, 0 failures, 18 commendations for valor." "I was just doing my job, sir." "No," Kess said firmly. "You were doing far more than that. You were fighting a war that never should have been yours to fight. And you did it with distinction." He paused, studying her carefully. "I am here to offer you a choice, Cadet Vance. You can complete your training at the Academy, graduate with honors, and accept a standard commission in the Coalition military. Or you can come work for me. Special Operations has need of someone with your particular skills." Riley was quiet for a long moment. "What would that entail, sir?" "The same things you did during the border wars, except on a galactic scale. There are threats in this galaxy that most people never hear about. Pirates, slavers, rogue factions that would destabilize entire sectors if left unchecked. We stop them. Quietly. Efficiently. Permanently." "More killing," Riley said softly. "Yes," Kess admitted. More killing, but purposeful killing, necessary killing, the kind that saves millions of lives by ending a few. And if I say no? Then you say no. This is an offer, not an order. You have earned the right to choose your own path. Riley looked down at her hands. Can I have time to think about it? Take all the time you need, Kess said. But Cadet Vance, whatever you decide, know this. You are not broken. You are not damaged. You are a warrior who did what needed to be done. Never apologize for that. The recording ended. We sat in silence for a while, processing what we had just witnessed. She is going to take it, Dax said finally. The special operations offer. She is going to leave the academy. No, Mira disagreed. She will stay. She came here to find peace, remember? Special operations is just more war. Maybe war is all she knows, Finn suggested quietly. I did not say anything, because I did not know which outcome I hoped for. Riley Vance had become more than just a member of Unit 7. She had become a friend. But she also carried ghosts that none of us could help her fight. The answer came 3 days later. Riley found us in the training arena, running combat drills. She stood at the edge of the floor, watching us work. When we finished, I walked over to her. Well, I asked. What did you decide? She smiled. It was a real smile this time, reaching all the way to her eyes. I am staying. I am going to finish my training here at the academy. And then I am going to accept a teaching position. Teaching? Jorek looked surprised. You want to teach? I want to make sure the next generation of soldiers is better prepared than I was, Riley said. I want to teach them tactics, survival, how to think under pressure. But most importantly, I want to teach them how to hold on to their humanity, even when everything around them is trying to take it away. Mira's blue skin flickered with emotion. That is a good choice. It is the right choice, Riley agreed. For me, anyway. I spent 8 years fighting. I think it is time I spent some years building instead. Dax grinned. Does this mean Unit 7 stays together? For now, I said. Until graduation, at least. After that, who knows where the galaxy will take us? Wherever it takes us, Finn said, his forearms spreading wide. We face it as we have faced everything else, together.